Building Futures Strengthening Maine, the University of Maine System, Fall 2016. In June of this year, the Chancellor charged a working group with developing a strategic resource allocation plan to support the primary outcomes of the Board of Trustees. The investments proposed in this plan would be funded by an appropriation request to the Governor and Legislature beginning in fiscal year 2018, as well as from existing resources already set aside for this purpose. As we know, Maine is in the middle of a demographic winter, wherein our population of 15 to 24-year-olds is declining by nearly 20%. In this environment, we have struggled to maintain enrollment, causing our fiscal positioning to slip. But in this same environment, our competitors have increased their market share. This proposed plan aims to regain market share through the strategic allocation of resources in support of the trustees' primary outcomes. We want your feedback. Are these the right investments? How would you prioritize them? What have we missed? Our purpose as Maine's public university system is to build futures and strengthen Maine. This is the purpose statement developed by our university presidents. This purpose statement guided the work of developing the strategic resource allocation plan. As Maine's public university system, we seek to offer broad access to higher education in order to build the futures of our people and to strengthen our great state. We are the state's higher education infrastructure. Our campuses are educationally and culturally important to the regions they serve. They are access points for education and economic engines in their region. This slide depicts the planning spectrum in which we are engaged. We are at the beginning of the middle phase, strategic positioning, and the resource allocation plan outlined in this presentation would advance us towards the desired future state. This presentation will demonstrate that we have invested heavily in these focus areas over the past few years, and the strategic resource allocation plan would help us to align future investment with these outcomes going forward. Between FY 2015 and FY 2019, we will invest over $100 million towards achieving the primary outcomes. This is our current level of investment in system and campus initiatives over and above routine activity in these areas. The pie chart represents spending on university operations, a little more than $40 million of the total. To date, we have planned investment of $13 million in increasing enrollment system-wide, $24 million in student success and completion initiatives, $8 million in fiscal positioning, largely in those areas that have undergone administrative reviews, $2 million in academic programming opportunities, and $1 million in workforce engagement initiatives. Additionally, we have planned investment of $60 million to support Maine research and economic development. The Board of Trustees have identified 4 primary outcomes as our focus for the next 5 years: increase enrollment, improve student success and completion, enhance fiscal positioning, and support Maine through research and economic development. In addition, the Board has also asked us to focus on 2 secondary outcomes: relevant academic programming and workforce engagement. Beginning first with the proposed enrollment transformation enablers. Whom do we seek to serve? This slide depicts the pipelines through which our students enter the university: K-12 aspirations, early study and dual enrollment, traditional first-year college students, transfer students from the community colleges, internal transfers within the university, and transfers from other institutions, out-of-state and international students, pathways to graduate education, and special populations such as veterans, adults, new Mainers, and Native Americans. How will we attract students? This slide outlines an approach for market positioning. Until 2007, we had no problem attracting enrollment sufficient to support our infrastructure. But as we know, the world has changed, and we must strategically invest in market positioning if we want to regain market share. In particular, we have insufficient resources to support an ongoing effort in market research and analysis. We are underfunded in marketing dollars, and we need to find our market focus to be more effective in leveraging the investments we are able to make in market positioning. What additional investment is needed to increase enrollment? Enrollment management expertise, particularly at our smaller institutions. Implementation of the dual enrollment NACEP standards. Adult completion supports and scholarships. Transfer counselors. Market research. Marketing. And online supports for students at a distance. Total investment of $20 million over the next 5 years. Next, let's look at the student success and completion transformation enablers. How will we help students achieve? This slide depicts the pathways to degree completion and workforce success. We must pay careful attention to our students on each step on the path, from our first introduction to that critical first year, to progressing through to completion and continuing to graduate education or entering the workforce. Students need a network of services and supports to navigate the path, which brings us to the next slide. How will we support students? Most critically, we need access to the right data on which to base our decisions. Data on the pipelines to enrollment, the pathways to completion, and potential and existing students. Market research to understand our opportunities in the marketplace, assessment to understand the impact on learning, and peer benchmarking to hold ourselves accountable. We also need to remove barriers for our multi-campus students, improve the student experience through advising, and support our faculty and staff in professional development. And we need to use our financial aid program strategically to advantage our students to completion at a cost that is affordable. What additional investment is needed in student success and completion? Student retention incentives to ensure financial aid keeps up with student progress. Developmental supports for students. The EAB campus implementation, an early alert system. Surveys of students, faculty, alumni, and employers to make sure we understand their needs. Main Street data improvements. Institutional research and reporting resources. Professional development, such as for advising. Student navigators. And a completion campaign, such as UMaine's Think 30. Next, let's take a look at the fiscal positioning transformation enablers. How will we fiscally position the University of Maine system? Much of this work is already in place, and you are very familiar with it. The Unified Finance and Administration Initiative, which was put in place over the past 3 years, and the Unified Budget Policy, which has been in development and was approved by the trustees at their September board meeting. Under Unified Finance and Administration, I would call out there are campus collaborations for efficiencies that are continuing, such as between the University of Maine and the University of Maine at Machias, and between the University of Maine at Presque Isle and the University of Maine at Fort Kent. I would also note that the fourth item down under the Unified Budget Policy is Comprehensive Resource Planning and Allocation, represented by the work outlined in this presentation. Most critically, we will position ourselves going forward by acknowledging and requesting a level of state investment that supports the primary outcomes. The trustees have approved that appropriation request at their September board meeting, and in this presentation, we are showing how we would propose to put that to work if it is ultimately approved by the legislature. Next, let's look at the Maine Research and Economic Development Transformation Enablers. How will we serve our state? There are 4 major foci for how our research and economic development activities support our state. Traditional research and development, including basic research, represented by our work with the Maine Economic Improvement Fund, the Chancellor's Research Reinvestment Fund, and commercialization acceleration activity. We also serve our state through partnerships. We support business development and attraction, business problem solving, incubation and startup, and outreach, such as through the cooperative extension. And all of our institutions are engaged in workforce development and community engagement activity. What additional investment is needed to support Maine through research and economic development? Funding for community engagement. Funding for the Chancellor's Research Reinvestment Fund, and support for a commercialization bond. Now let's turn to the transformation enablers for academic programming. What will we offer academically? We want to ensure our existing programs deliver a 21st century liberal arts education that is aligned with workforce demands and provides for relevant skill development and proficiency. We seek to meet workforce need in the development of new programs and align our portfolio with that need through collaboration and program integration. And we know our prospective students seek flexibility in the assessment of prior learning and the ability to access courses and programs online at times convenient to them. What additional investment is needed for academic transformation? We are proposing $850,000 per year over the next 5 years to fund innovation. The Innovation Fund would serve as seed money for faculty and support the evolution of existing programs to align with workforce needs and support proficiency in skill development, the development of new programs, academic collaborations such as program integration and statewide access to graduate programs, and the expansion of online and distance education. Finally, let's take a look at the university's workforce engagement transformation enablers. As Maine's university system, we seek to have a high-performing, engaged, and student-centric workforce. But how will we transform our culture? We need a compelling purpose for our work and vision for the future. We need a guiding coalition of leadership at both the system and campus level that is aligned around the vision and the outcomes we seek. We need a singular focus on the student experience. We also need a strong focus on diversity and inclusion to ensure our campus communities are welcoming to all. We need to modify existing systems and structures to align with the outcomes we seek, and we need to invest in our workforce so they will align with us and feel engaged around these goals. What additional investment is needed to engage our workforce? Investment in professional development, particularly on the student experience, diversity and inclusion, and leadership. Consulting support to hone our vision and values and focus on the student experience. An employee survey tool to gain feedback and gauge engagement. A talent management system that supports our faculty and staff from onboarding through performance management. And a system of performance-based recognition and rewards. A total investment of $3 million over 5 years. What is the total additional level of funding needed to advance these primary outcomes? An additional $100 million over the next 5 years. The resources necessary to support this scenario are already incorporated into current planning for savings from the administrative reviews and our fiscal years 2018 and 2019 request for appropriation to the Governor and the Legislature. Together, we must make a strong case to the Governor, the Legislature, and the people of Maine for the resources we need to be successful in serving our state. Now is the time to invest in our public higher education system, to build futures and strengthen Maine. We must actively campaign for this support. We are worthy of this investment. What is the impact of these investments on the multi-year financial analysis? The bottom line on the graph represents the current forecast, where we close the budget gap in fiscal year 2021, but with a surplus of just $400,000 system-wide. A conservative projection of enrollment growth from both new enrollment and retention would allow us to reach solvency a year earlier, fiscal year 2020, and end fiscal year 2021 with a surplus of $3.9 million. These revenues are net of the estimated cost of supporting that enrollment growth. We also offer two other more aggressive projections, which could yield higher returns in the out years and allow for additional investment in student success and completion. The trustees have asked us to consider the metrics by which we will hold ourselves accountable for the increased investment funds we receive. These are the measures we are proposing. First, increase enrollment. Achieve or exceed the 5-year enrollment management projections and the corresponding revenue estimates in the multi-year fiscal analysis by population and by campus. Second, improve student success and completion, for which there are 4 measures. Achieve retention and completion rates equivalent to or better than peer institutions. Achieve student satisfaction and engagement rates equivalent to or better than peer institutions. Demonstrate through alumni satisfaction surveys that UMS graduates indicate they are well prepared for the workforce or graduate education. Reduce institutional student default rates through multifaceted strategy to lower indebtedness. Third, enhance fiscal positioning. Eliminate the structural budget gap. Achieve year-over-year improvement in the core financial ratios. Acquire the investment funds necessary for implementation of the Strategic Resource Allocation Plan. Fourth, support Maine research and economic development. Increase investment in research and economic development initiatives that support Maine. Increase number of commercialization and other partnerships with Maine industry. Demonstrate through impact studies by each campus or major program an upward trend line of community engagement and economic impact. Demonstrate through employer satisfaction surveys that UMS graduates are meeting demands for labor, including for specific skills and occupations, and that graduates are well prepared to fill workforce needs. Fifth, relevant academic programming. Track program vitality through a matrix of relevant indicators to ensure programmatic quality and continuous improvement. Increase student access and success through ongoing development of sustainable, innovative programs that meet regional and state needs. Leverage faculty expertise and resources through shared course and program delivery, and quantify the market opportunities for growth of online programs aligned with university capacity. Last, workforce engagement. Demonstrate through employee engagement surveys continual improvement in engagement scores and the penetration of vision and values. And here is the timeline we propose for working with the campus constituencies to review and develop this work. As noted earlier, in late June, the Chancellor charged the working group with putting together a strategic resource allocation plan. The working group used July and August to develop the plan and reported to the Chancellor in September. We are now in the initial campus engagement phase, where we are introducing the plan and seeking feedback on the proposed initiatives and investments, as well as the proposed metrics. We will then incorporate that feedback and ask the Board of Trustees to provide conceptual, not final, approval of the plan at their November meeting. Then we will begin the next phase of campus engagement focused on how each of the 7 universities will align with the plan given their respective missions and strategic plans. We will also use this phase to gather additional feedback and adjust the investments as needed. At the same time, we'll keep track of our legislative request for appropriation and scale the plan to the level of investment funds available. During this phase, we will work together to develop a detailed and integrated implementation plan that will include the recommended investments aligned with available budget, an enrollment management plan that is aligned with the level of investment, and a set of metrics by which we will hold ourselves accountable. The detailed and integrated implementation plan is then due to the trustees in July of 2017. How can you influence the plan? Visit the Think Mission Excellence website. After viewing the presentation, take the feedback survey for the Strategic Resource Allocation Plan. Are these the right investments? Are these the right metrics? Tell us what you would suggest differently. Attend the open forum on your campus to discuss the plan and offer feedback. Engage with your respective campus leadership to help determine how your institutional mission aligns with the plan. Thank you for taking the time to view this presentation. We look forward to your feedback.